Good afternoon. My name is Matt Williams, and I am, as I jokingly like to say, the forever interim pastor at Sandhill Lutheran Church. I say that because full-time, I'm a corporate sales director, and a few years ago, in the transition time, I was invited to come, and what I thought was going to be a year has turned into 5 years now, and Owen, don't clap. And and so again, it's been a great chance to get to know this wonderful community of Sandhill, just there off of Highway 220 there and in the Climax, Minnesota area there. And so when I was invited and asked to give a few words to open up this morning, of course I said yes. Now I had to, a little caveat here. I looked at my phone about a month or so ago, and when you see maybe Owen Larson calling you, you don't know if you really want to pick up the phone or not. But no, all kidding aside, again, thank you all for being here and for giving me the opportunity to say a few words, introduction, share some scriptures, but really just to kind of set the tone for what will be a great tribute of sharing of life for Darrell, as well as music. Again, looking forward to all of that. I'd like to open reading a few words from Scripture. First from the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, starting with verse 1. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heavens, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up, which is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. And a reading from John's Gospel, chapter 14. Let not your hearts be troubled. Believe in God, but also believe in me. In my Father's house there are many mansions. If it were not so, I would not have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there you may be also. Friends and family, we gather today to celebrate a man who somehow managed to balance the gravitas of being a high-powered tax attorney with the soul of an artist and the patience, as we found out in reading the tribute, of a world-class cat dad. Darrell Larson was defined by quiet excellence and steadfast integrity, but those who knew him best knew his infectious zest for life. Hence, as we all walked in, not only we were greeted by pictures, we were greeted by the beautiful art around us, but as you saw, there's even a few cocktails there. So celebrating life, toasting a life well lived. Whether Darrell was navigating complex estate plans, braving the rugged Irish links during the West Coast Challenge, or teaching himself to play guitar, something he shared with another famous Minnesota-born gentleman. You may have heard of him. His name is Prince. All of these things Darrell did with a smile and a helping hand. A life lesson he learned early on the family farm there in Climax and from the community of Sandhill Lutheran Church. While Darrell built a distinguished 4-decade career and led major community institutions with wisdom and grace, he never lost the sight of the importance of serving others, which was a gift and a wisdom that guided him in both his personal and professional life. So today we are here to honor a legacy of hard work and service, but also a legacy of love for life, love for friends and colleagues and family. To share the laughter and the music that Darrell brought into our lives, a commitment to the profession, to the arts, to the community. Darrell showed us that one could be exceptionally professional and unfailingly kind, with just enough room left over for a good round of golf, the occasional cocktail or two, and a few guitar chords. Let us pray. Gracious and loving God, we come before you today with hearts both heavy with loss and full of gratitude. We thank you for the gift of Darrell's life and for the many ways in which he enriched our world. We praise you for the faith that guided him and the Christian values of generosity and helpfulness that he lived out every day. Lord, we ask your divine comfort to surround those who grieve. We lift up his family, friends, and colleagues gathered here today, as well as those who could not join in person, but who are here in spirit. In their sorrow, grant them your peace that passes all understanding. We thank you for the love and laughter Darrell shared, for the example of integrity he set for us all. As we remember him today, guide us by his legacy of service and help us to honor his memory by extending the same kindness and respect to others that he so freely gave. May he rest in your eternal peace as today we celebrate a life well lived. Amen.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dave, a longtime friend of Darrell's. It was Easter Sunday, and it's been a few years, but that afternoon there came a knock at the door, and I was the one who answered the door, and you can imagine my surprise when I opened the door, and there standing before me was a 6-foot giant rabbit. and it was very clear that the rabbit intended to come in the house. I was so shocked. I don't even remember what color the rabbit was, but I do remember thinking, well, that's something you don't see every day. I was gathering myself, and my kids, Brittany and Brianna, caught sight of this, and so they came running down the stairs. I'm sure they thought it was the real Easter Bunny that was there. And lo and behold, when they got to the bottom of the stairs, it was the real Easter Bunny. The Easter Bunny had 2 giant baskets of goodies and toys and all kinds of things for my kids. And the rabbit sat down and and played with my kids like there wasn't another thing excuse me, like there wasn't another thing in the world that the rabbit had to do. Well, if you're not familiar with this, you'd probably wonder, well, who in the world does that on Easter Sunday afternoon? But of course, you're all here, so you know that rabbit was Darrell E. Larson, attorney at law. and at my house, merrymaker in chief. Darrell was so beloved in my house that he earned the title of Uncle Darrell, and that was just yet another example of Darrell being Darrell, that big, beautiful, goofy, wonderful, wonderful man. You know, it's not easy to try to package up who Darrell was, all in a neat package, because he was just such a huge force of nature. Darrell was a towering legal mind, of course. We all know that. And he was a statesman. And he was a fighter for community causes. And he was a volunteer. And he was an avid golfer, a world traveler, an athlete, sports fan. He was a true friend. He was a loving husband, loving son, and so many other things that I know you could all fill in the blanks. But it was impossible to put Darrell in a box. You know, Darrell approached life in his own very unique way, like nobody else in the world. There was going to be a Darrell way that he was going to do it. And I learned over the years that the Darrell way was usually a pretty good way of doing it. And maybe that's part of why he was so successful. Well, I say it was usually pretty good. Sometimes maybe not. Darrell had this certain European car. And he really liked that car. And he should have liked that car because it was a beautiful, beautiful car. But he was absolutely unfazed when that car got stuck in 2 inches of snow on his driveway. Routinely. But Darrell, being the farm boy that he was, he learned that on the farm, if you get stuck, what do? You back up a little bit, hit the gas, give it the gun, and go a little more. So he'd go another few more feet and repeat the same procedure and repeat it again. And however many times it took, and eventually he got out of the cul-de-sac. I don't know what happened after that, but I know he got out of the cul-de-sac. He was so happy about his car. He would like to tell me about this special thing where you could fold down the seats, and so you could stick your golf bag through the seats. I said, Darrell, most trunks you could just put the golf bag in the seats and in the trunk, and that's kind of the end of it. But he didn't see it that way. And Darrell was just so lovable. And I have to tell you, I was blessed with Darrell's presence in just about every facet of my life by good luck and whatever else. Darrell was a counselor to me personally and professionally for my entire career. And we worked together on so many community causes together, just in joy and delightful every minute to be with Darrell. We both had a love of music, and I'm not ashamed of saying that more than once I chased Darrell down the golf course, trying to stay up with him as we golfed in rain that was pouring so hard that you couldn't see the big green in front of you. But Darrell was going, and I followed him. I know there are a lot of his friends and family here from Climax, and to Climax friends, I just want to say, you should be really proud of your native son, Darrell. I think that everything important that Darrell needed to learn, he learned up growing up in the community and around his friends there. He learned to work hard, to be generous. He learned to live your faith. He learned to tell the truth and be humble. He was that way the day I met him so many years ago, and he never changed. Darrell never shaded the truth, and that's rarer than you might think. He never shaded the truth. He spoke what was true 100% all of the time. He did it He did it lovingly, but he always spoke the truth. He worked hard. Oh, goodness. Darrell could work hard. He could work anybody under the table. And when he believed something was right, he said so, and if it was in his convictions, he wouldn't back away, ever, not ever. Darrell had courage. More than once, I got the chance to observe him when the chips were really down and you needed courage, and Darrell had that courage. But you know what? I think the thing that I probably, after a whole lifetime, what I take away from Darrell most is his unbelievable generosity. And I mean, yes, the generosity of sharing his resources. Many of you in this room know how generous he was in that way. But in a deeper sense, I mean, just the generosity of his gentle, unbelievable spirit. Whenever Darrell was with me, and I've just got to think this is your story too, Darrell had that presence, that he was right there with you. He was paying attention. He was listening. He really cared. I know he cared about me, but I think he cared about people because I saw him do it so many times. I guess you could be a good attorney by starting from wanting to figure out and solve problems and get through things, and Darrell was certainly that. But I think Darrell started at a way different place. He started from the place of really caring about people and what they were trying to do in their lives, and he worked hard to make them be able to realize their dreams. In fact, I think that generosity might be the through line of Darrell's whole life. Everything had some aspect of generosity. In every good book, you have to wait until a little ways into the story, or sometimes a long ways into the story, before they start to make the big reveals. Darrell's life was like that too. And his big reveal is called Kate. And when Kate and Darrell met, Kate knew instantly he had found his forever love. I used to kid Darrell about lots of things. And he kidded me too, so don't feel bad for him. I used to kid Darrell. Darrell, what do you think she sees in you? and I pretend I wasn't getting it. and Darrell said, I don't know what she sees in me, but with her, everything in my life makes sense. And that's the truth. Kate, you brought such completeness to Darrell. And I know he loved you and loves you forever. Looking back, I've got to say how lucky I was to have Darrell in my life. Darrell poured himself over my life, and I'm pretty sure all of you would say the same thing. Poured himself over our lives, sharing that generosity, that overwhelming love, that care that only Darrell had. What a great privilege to call him a friend. And whether he was moving mountains, or helping lead through fire, or putting on a big dumb bunny rabbit suit, Darrell was amazing and filled with a generosity of spirit. Darrell, I'm going to miss you. such a great man. And I can't wait to see him again.
I'm Jeff Tolman from Paulsbo, Washington, and this is Steve Zlatos from Indianapolis. In late August 1974, almost exactly 52 years ago today, Darrell Larson left his family home in Climax, Minnesota, and headed west to Gonzaga Law School. He stopped in Columbus, Montana to see his friend Clark Martin, and then journeyed to Spokane, where he moved into Chardin Hall, the law student's dorm. There, the first person he met was his roommate, Murray Prower, Muzz, lovingly known, who was from New York City. Relatively soon, he met a young man from Asotin, Washington, myself, and my roommate that I met that day from Walkerton, Indiana, Steve Zlatos. We're also honored today to have another member of our Chardin family, our Gonzaga Law School family, Pat Cronin from Minneapolis, Minnesota. We four, Darrell, Muzz, Steve, and myself, were initially drawn together by dreams of becoming lawyers and fear of failure. Together we cajoled each other, we teased each other, we supported each other, and we loved each other for the challenging first year of the Socratic method in law school. The four of us were only together 1 year. At the end of our first year of law school, Muzz transferred to Buffalo University School of Law, Steve transferred to Indiana School of Law, and Darrell and I lived together for the next 2 years at Gonzaga in Spokane. At the end of our 1 year together, the four of us felt a bond we believed could and would and should go on for a lifetime. We had a pinball tournament at the end of our first year, with the winner receiving one of those cheesy little plastic trophies that you can buy for about $1. That tiny pinball trophy has evolved into a plaque noting the winner and location from our last tournament when we were together, whether it be pinball, backgammon, or after Muzz died in 2002, three-handed gin rummy. Over the next half-century, we four Zags developed law practices and families, keeping in touch as time and money allowed. Through the years, we made our best efforts to get together, adding to our families along the way wonderful spouses, Kate Larson, Lori Tolman, Betsy Zlatos, and Lisa Prower. Their love, support, enthusiasm, and laughter has been a cherished and extraordinary part of our Gonzaga family. The traveling trophy, successor to the 1974 pinball trophy, notes our gatherings to celebrate our friendships over the years. Our friendship trips together include Washington, Wyoming, Indiana, Costa Rica, Ireland, Alabama, Hawaii, California, Utah, North Dakota, New Mexico, New York, New Jersey, Mexico, Illinois, Dublin, London, Amsterdam, Massachusetts, Michigan, and Alaska. And several of the destinations we traveled together more than once. Our other travels, with not the whole group, but with part of us, included escapades in Iceland, Scotland, Alaska, Maine, Italy, Colombia, Slovakia, France, Quebec, and Indiana. We've been so blessed with so many adventures, memories, and laughs and reminiscences as we've evolved together from students in our 20s to parents, grandparents, and retirees. As most of you know, music was a very important part of Darrell's life, and his guitar traveled with us on most of our trips and adventures together. I have lifelong and fond memories of Darrell, Kate, Steve, Betsy, Muzz, Lisa, Lori, and myself loudly singing the Byrds' My Back Pages, Seals and Crofts' Dust on My Saddle, Simon and Garfunkel's The Boxer, John Prine's Hello in There, and my favorite, Crosby, Stills, and Nash, Our House. And yes, Kate, Our house together was a very, very, very fine house. Lori and I have been so honored to have such a heartfelt and lasting friendship with Kate, Darrell, Steve, Betsy, Muzz, and Lisa over these decades. We celebrate that as we celebrate the loss. But there were so many good times each of us have had with Darrell, so many touching times, times you felt connected, that he will be cherished and missed for many, many years to come. And I have to say that when they played Here Comes the Sun, he played it for my dad every time they got together. And it was the Bob Tolman National Anthem, and I was so pleased and proud he got to know them.
Jeff's really good at this. I got to write it down because, it's hard to. So, this is a celebration, right? We're gathered here today to celebrate the extraordinary life of Jeff and my wonderful, goofy friend, Darrell Larson. To lose a friend of over 50 years is to lose a piece of your own history. But it also means being blessed with a lifetime of irreplaceable memories. Dell and I first crossed paths at Gonzaga. Thanks, Kate. She has to give it to me, okay? Ridiculous, huh? Dell and I first crossed paths at Gonzaga Law School, where he and our dorm roommates, Jeff and Muzz, quickly bonded as classmates in our first year of law school over a shared passion for sports, music, beer, and the opposite sex. Although not necessarily in that order. But Darrell also possessed a healthy dose of competitive spirit. Whether we were grinding through the late-night study sessions or playing fiercely in pickup basketball games, or even just cards or backgammon, Darrell brought an infectious energy to everything he did. Now, anybody that knew Darrell, and you all did, knew that he also had a gift for persuasion. When we decided to form a law school baseball team, Darrell didn't just want us to play. He wanted us to look the part. He somehow managed to convince his dad to have their local Cenex farming co-op sponsor our ragtag team. In almost no time, they delivered everyone on the team Cenex t-shirts and hats. We took to the field with pride, fueled by Darrell's enthusiasm and a deep sense of camaraderie from that. But our adventures didn't stop on the diamond. Dell later persuaded me to join him on a two-person rubber raft to plunge through the whitewater rapids of the Spokane River, where we promptly capsized. And I, but for Darrell's pulling me out of the swirling water with his big oar, would have surely drowned. Many years later, Darrell joined me on a journey to my ancestral home of Slovakia to watch a Norwegian-bred man from the farmlands of Minnesota completely immerse himself in Slovak culture, partaking and celebrating with my relatives as if they were his own, was a beautiful testament to his open heart and his joyful soul. Distance and language barriers dissolved because Darrell's warmth and smile was a universal language. Darrell was the kind of friend who made good times better and any hard times easier. For more than half a century, he was a leader, a teammate, and our brother. So now he's taken his temporary leave of absence, but his presence is forever etched in our memory. So rest in peace, Darrell. I love you. For being my ultimate teammate. Thank you.
My name is Tim Dittus, and Darrell was my colleague and law partner for just over 37 years. In 1985, when I first started working at the law firm then known as Degnan, McElroy, Lamb, Kamrud, Maddock, and Olson, Darrell was the newest shareholder, and he definitely was the youngest. From my first day at the law firm, Darrell impressed me as being all business. In my mind, he was the perfect example of what a lawyer, at least a male lawyer of the time, should look like and act like. It's hard for me to recall a day pre-COVID when Darrell didn't wear a suit and a tie to work. And when I say work, I mean work. It was a rare occurrence when I beat Darrell to the office. Most mornings he had already brewed a pot of coffee, poured himself a cup, closed his office door, and settled in behind his desk for a long day filled with drafting estate planning documents and probate court filings, reviewing contracts, making and taking phone calls with clients and other lawyers, and all the other sorts of things that lawyers with an office practice do. And client meetings. Lots of client meetings. At times it was difficult to book a conference room because Darrell was utilizing more than one at the same time. You didn't really see Darrell running from meeting to meeting as much as you heard him. I still don't understand how such a slim guy could sound like a guy my size speed walking down the hallway. Those of you who knew Darrell won't be surprised to learn that he was a meticulous proofreader. There were no misplaced commas, no extra spaces, or capitalization errors that went undetected. I can still see him standing over his secretary's shoulder as she, or he as the case may be, made those corrections in real time. Among the shareholders at the time, Darrell was an early adopter of technology. He quickly mastered Excel and began wielding spreadsheets like a samurai warrior's sword. Notwithstanding his willingness to embrace the modern law office, I think Darrell was the last among us to begrudgingly surrender his dictaphone. Darrell rarely partook in water cooler talk or hallway conversations, preferring instead to remain focused on the task at hand. Notwithstanding that laser-like focus, he always found time for a cheerful hello or a quick chat as he refilled his coffee cup. The lone exception was when he had recently returned from one of his frequent trips abroad. If you made inquiry, Darrell was more than happy to share travel tips, preferred destinations, and the name and menu of his favorite restaurants in each. It never ceased to amaze me that he somehow seemed totally immune to jet lag. Darrell's commitment to his clients was unwavering. His workday rarely ended at 5 p.m., especially as it neared April 15th or year end. As many of you know, Darrell had diabetes. There were several times when he would work through lunch and late into the evening without taking the time to eat. We younger lawyers, who were often still at the office, would check in on Darrell as the evening wore on. If necessary, we'd offer, or more likely badger him, into having a glass of grapefruit juice or having something to eat. Darrell was always available to his clients, even when he was halfway around the world. For those in today's world seeking work-life balance, they would say this was a failure to set boundaries on Darrell's part. I would say Darrell had boundless commitment to his clients and his profession. And I think Darrell expected that same type of commitment from all of us. While most of us at that time had more or less general practices, Darrell was one of the first attorneys in our office to truly specialize in an area of law. He obtained his LLM in tax at a time when that was very rare in our area. Throughout his career, he diligently pursued self-study and national continuing legal education opportunities to stay abreast of the changing nuances of the tax code that affected estate planning. He was truly an expert in his chosen areas of practice. To me, Darrell was the quintessential lawyer, the sort of lawyer that television and movie characters are based on. He was always well-dressed, well-groomed, and well-spoken. He was the consummate professional, and his clients loved him. He related well to all of them, from executives in the C-suites of multi-million-dollar corporations to the small farm family looking to ensure that the farm would remain in the family for the next generation and beyond. Darrell once told me that when he was hired, he was perceived as a bit of a, quote, wild-eyed liberal, end quote, which he attributed to having attended NYU to obtain his LLM. As I came to know Darrell, I would describe him as being fiscally conservative and socially liberal. And for Darrell, that was the perfect combination. His business acumen and tax knowledge, his lawyering skills, and his empathy for others made him the perfect candidate for all sorts of leadership roles throughout the community. And he was sought out by many: the Chamber of Commerce, Altru Health System, the North Dakota Museum of Art, and the very first Event Center Commission. With a title attorney at law, I think Darrell felt obligated to give back, and he acted on that feeling. I'm reminded of Luke 12:48. From everyone who has been given much, much will be demanded, and from the one who has been entrusted with much, much more will be asked. For me, one of Darrell's most impactful leadership roles involved the law firm's recovery from the devastating flood and fire of 1997. After our offices in the First National Bank building were destroyed by fire, Darrell was instrumental in building consensus among the shareholders that not only should the law firm remain in downtown Grand Forks, where it had been since 1932, but that it should anchor the community's effort to rebuild and revitalize downtown. His vision led to a partnership among First National Bank, Brady Martz, the law firm, and the city of Grand Forks to construct and develop what became known as Corporate Centers 1 and 2, right in the heart of devastated downtown. This project served as the catalyst for what downtown Grand Forks is today. And Darrell's involvement didn't end with conceptualizing this project. It continued to include every aspect of the fit-up of the law firm's new offices. And the offices are a perfect reflection of the image Darrell thought the law firm should convey. It's authoritative, confident, stately, and prestigious. I can't walk by the 5-quarter solid oak doors, the solid brass hardware, the rich dark oak paneling, and the leather furniture without seeing Darrell's hand in all of it. Although I've described Darrell as all business, I don't want to leave the wrong impression. Darrell knew how to have a fun time and make sure others did as well. Early in my time at the law firm, We occupied 2 floors in the First National Bank building. Darrell, Don Olson, Tom McElroy, Scott Jensen, and I had offices on the 4th floor. Now, Don and Tom were both older, and they had late places, and they'd often leave the office around noon on Friday afternoons in the summertime. Well, that left Darrell, the newest shareholder, and Scott and I, 2 young associates, to grind out the last of the work week. It wasn't uncommon for Darrell, at around 3 o'clock, to reach into his wallet and summon one of the 21-year-old office clerks to head to the Dixie bar to pick up a couple of 6-packs of beer. We would then spend the last hour and a half or so listening to Darrell tell war stories or talk about the Rolling Stones or Gonzaga men's basketball or any one of another million things. And one of the things that impressed me most about Darrell, and more fully tells the tale of what kind of man he was, is the way he looked after his mother and father in their later years. More often than not, Friday evenings would find Darrell rushing out the door to pick up Joe and Blanche for the Friday fish fry at the American Legion Club. The world was definitely a more interesting place with Darrell in it, and I'm going to miss him.
Thank you to all the friends and family that have gathered here today as we remember the life and generosity of our friend Darrell. My name is Matthew Wallace, and I'm the director here at the North Dakota Museum of Art. I started my career in 2004 and have had the pleasure of knowing Darrell in many different capacities, first as an employee and then as the director here at the museum. Darrell wasn't just a trustee, he was a friend. He was a friend who would sit with you and discuss the best versions of the song Motherless Child or shifting geopolitical lines. Over the last 20 plus years, I did learn of 2 things, besides his wife, Kate, that Darrell truly loved: Gonzaga basketball and Robert's Rules of Order. NCAA basketball is something I'm still trying to get my mind around, and I'm sure I'll never fully grasp Robert's Rule of Order. Never in my adult life did I think I would need someone so well versed in Robert's rules, but I did. And I'm glad that I had Darrell for that. More times than I can count, in museum board meetings, I would sit on my end of the table and think to myself, I wonder what time it is in Hawaii right now. Darrell was someone who would take the time out of his schedule to explain and mentor as I started this journey of becoming the director here. He was not only generous with his time, but he also loved the museum and wanted to be the best it could be. Darrell probably spent 25 years with the museum as a trustee. When he would term out, he would take his expertise to the foundation board before returning to the Board of Trustees again. We couldn't, or maybe we wouldn't, let him go. He often told me he was encouraged to get involved with the museum by Ted Cameron. For that, I will be forever grateful. The museum is a better place because of Darrell and his commitment to this institution. With his quiet dedication, Darrell truly advanced the museum's mission and helped pave the way for future success and longevity. Over the years, he helped us navigate bylaws, endless paperwork, and rules, but he also knew how to navigate people with grace and humility. In fact, I believe it was Darrell who negotiated with Laurel, the founding director here at the museum, to get her to serve Michelob Ultra and not just wine at our receptions. I'm sorry. And I know that was probably a tough negotiation. But at the same time, maybe it wasn't, knowing how much Laurel loved Darrell and trusted his guidance on all matters, legal or otherwise. As a young employee, I saw how much Laurel leaned on Darrell as a trustee and a friend. She could call him at his office or at 9 p.m. in his home. He always answered. She would have certainly considered Darrell a core person among the select few who helped establish the North Dakota Museum of Art, and one of those select few that helped her build this into an international institution. Not only did Darrell serve as a trustee for years, but as plans were laid for the future of the museum, he and a few others guided Laurel through the process of establishing the North Dakota Museum of Art Foundation and solicited the early gifts for a predictable income for the museum. As years clicked by, Darrell and Kate moved to Hawaii, but it didn't sever his connection to Laurel or the museum. As Laurel's health began to decline, and he and Kate made their long trek back to Grand Forks to see her one last time. As she sat in her wheelchair in the dining room table, when it was time to say our goodbyes, Darrell put his arm around Laurel, kissed her cheek, and she replied with a big smile and an "I love you." After they left, Laurel was exhausted, but continued to talk about how pleased she was to see him again and how she couldn't have done what she did without him. I would say that Darrell's relationship to the museum wasn't always work, but that might be a stretch. He always worked for the betterment of the museum. For years, he would join the museum on Art Odyssey excursions, both national and international trips, full of curated-led tours, artist studio visits, and other adventures Laurel planned for the group. Although Darrell was a paying guest, he would roll up his sleeves and help the museum staff lug bags for our elderly guests, make head counts, and was one of the last on the van so that he knew everyone was on board. He would donate air miles for staff to attend so the museum wasn't saddled with expensive tickets. Darrell's care for others and his generosity was at the center of who he was and how we lived. In talking to a friend recently, Darrell came up and told me that as a teenager, 15 years old, he worked at Kentucky Fried Chicken, another one of Darrell's loves. Darrell was a regular and did takeout after a long day at the office. This friend told me he often was intimidated by Darrell coming through the drive-thru. After all, he was a 15-year-old kid, and Darrell was a man in a suit driving a nice car. He assumed something would be wrong with the order or just wouldn't be a pleasant experience. But my friend marveled at how Darrell would get to the window, strike up a conversation, and ask how he was doing, and drive away, making him feel as if they were friends and that his job truly mattered. He ended the story by remarking how wrong he was and that Darrell was one of his favorite customers. This interaction is something that I have had the pleasure witnessing numerous times over my 20-plus years knowing Darrell here at the North Dakota Museum of Art. If anyone mentioned Darrell's name, it was with deep admiration, respect, and for love. And with that, the museum is a much better place because of Darrell's involvement here, and I would say this whole community is.
My name is Jay Matthews. Now, Kate promised me a solid 24 minutes, but 11 of the 14 pages that I had prepared have already been covered. So let's just get right into the heart of the point I'd like to get across. We gather today to celebrate the life of our dear friend. Friend I was fortunate enough to know for more than 30 years. Darrell was a distinguished estate and tax planning attorney, deeply respected for his knowledge, his judgment, and his remarkable ability to solve even the most complicated problems. In our work together, we did a lot of educational seminars, and I saw firsthand how much people valued his expertise. but also how readily he wanted to share his knowledge. He had a gift for making difficult subjects understandable and for helping people feel confident when the issues in front of them felt overwhelming. But as accomplished as Darrell was professionally, it is not only his knowledge that I will remember, but his kindness. He had this steady presence, and more than anything, he had that smile. Darrell had one of those rare smiles, warm, genuine, and embracing. Whether we found ourselves in a comical situation or facing something terribly difficult, that smile had a way of saying, everything's going to be all right. And that was Darrell's gift to the people around him. He brought reassurance, he brought perspective, and he made people feel seen, welcomed, and less alone. His intelligence earned respect, but his heart earned affection. His friendship was a blessing. For more than 3 decades, I had the privilege of calling him my friend. I'm grateful for the work we shared, the moments of laughter, the challenges we faced, and the countless ways he made life brighter simply by being himself. Though we will miss Darrell deeply, we can carry forward what he gave us. His kindness, wisdom, generosity, and that unforgettable smile. May we remember it when life is joyful, when it's complicated, and especially when things are hard. May it remind us, as Darrell so often did, that somehow everything's going to be all right. I believe if he could be here with us today, the message he would like to get across is that we all simply live by 2 words: live life, because that's what he did. Thank you, Darrell, for your friendship, your example, and the warmth you brought into so many lives. You will be deeply missed, warmly remembered, and always loved. Thank you.
Good afternoon, friends. I'm Christy Hall-Duran, and as with so many of you, my friendship with Darrell goes back many decades, and I just want to say that I am beyond grateful for his presence in my life over the years. When I think about Darrell, the absolute first word that comes to mind, and you've heard it before, is generous. In my different roles in this community over the years, I've interacted with many, many people with big hearts. But Darrell was truly generous beyond compare, giving not only financial resources, but his time, his expertise, and his wisdom time and time again. It wasn't one grand gesture of generosity, but a lifetime of showing up year after year, whenever and wherever he could make a difference. I had the privilege of seeing that generosity firsthand through his involvement with the Community Violence Intervention Center. In CVIC's early years, Darrell was one of those people who helped however and whenever he could. He reviewed policies, he offered his expertise on investments and planned giving, and he provided the kind of guidance a young organization, as we were at that time, desperately needs. And he wasn't afraid to roll up his sleeves, or apparently to provide transportation. One of my favorite memories of Darrell is he was picking up a couple of us in his convertible sports car. I don't even remember where we were going, but I do remember that fitting one of us in the back seat was quite the adventure, and he was very nervous about how that was going to happen. And it's one of those little memories that always makes me smile. But Darrell's impact on CVIC was anything but little. He served on the steering committee for CVIC's very first capital campaign, at a time when we were still a fledgling organization attempting something we had never done before and didn't know much about. Darrell lent us his credibility, his expertise, and the respect that he had earned throughout the community. That campaign went on to raise an unprecedented amount of money and helped position CVIC for a successful future. Darrell was also one of CVIC's very first endowment donors, another gift that helped set up CVIC for future success. And I remember specifically that he wanted his gifts to help children, to improve lives, and create a better future for the generations that would follow him. That says so much about the kind of person he was. Darrell wasn't interested in what a gift said about him. He wasn't interested in recognition. He cared about what that gift could do for someone else, especially those most vulnerable among us. That same spirit was evident in Darrell's remarkable relationship with Altru. He served on Altru's board of directors for 12 years, giving not only financial support, but again, his time, his wisdom, and his leadership to an organization so key to this community. And his philanthropic relationship with Altru Foundation spanned more than 3 decades, making him one of our longest and steadiest givers. Darrell supported an extraordinary range of needs, from cancer and breast health to hospice, mental health, charitable care, and youth bereavement. And when an opportunity came along that could truly transform healthcare for this community, he and Kate stepped up in a big way. For Altru's beautiful new hospital, I have to share something particularly meaningful about that generous gift. By that time, Darrell and Kate were planning their move to Hawaii. They knew they might never personally benefit from the new hospital that they were helping to build. But their friends would, their neighbors would, children and families that they would never know would. And for Darrell and for Kate, that was enough. And that decision has stayed with me as an example of their remarkable generosity. Before I wrap up, I just need to comment on the beautiful relationship between Darrell and Kate. Do you all remember when they met? Darrell was so happy and excited, and that just continued throughout all of their years together. It has been a joy watching them grow together. Recently, one of my team members at the foundation was commenting on how beautiful their relationship was, how they respected each other, how they listened to each other, how they complimented each other so perfectly. And I said, yes, that's Darrell and Kate. What a beautiful couple. There are many ways to measure a life. Darrell's could certainly be measured in organizations strengthened, boards served, causes supported, policies written, campaigns advanced, and dollars generously given. But Darrell's real legacy is found somewhere much deeper. It is in the people whose lives are better because he cared. It's in the children who are given a chance at a better life. It is in the patients and families who received care when they needed it most. And it's in a community that is much stronger because Darrell believed that those who have the ability to help also have the opportunity and, yes, the responsibility to do so. Darrell gave without needing recognition. He served without needing attention. He helped because help was needed. I will miss my friend deeply, but I will always be grateful for the decades of friendship, for his example of integrity and compassion, for the laughter and the memories, and most of all, for the privilege of knowing a truly good and generous man. Thank you.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear, the hour I first believed. My chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior has ransomed me. And like a flood, His mercy reigns, unending love, amazing grace. The Lord has promised good to me. His word my hope secures. He will my shield and portion be, as long as life endures. My chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior has ransomed me. And like a flood, His mercy reigns, unending love, amazing grace. My chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior has ransomed me. And like a flood, His mercy reigns, unending love, amazing grace. The earth shall soon dissolve like snow, and the sun forbear to shine. My that you dream of, dreams really do come true. Oh, someday I wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where trouble melts like lemon drops, high above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow. Bluebirds fly, and the dreams that you dare to, oh why can't I? I see trees of green and red roses too. I'll watch them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Well, I see skies of blue, and I see clouds of white, and the brightness of day. I like the dark, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people passing by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, and I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than we'll know, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Someday I wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where trouble melts like lemon drops, high above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, and the dreams that you dare to, oh why can't I?
Thank you for the gifts of music and for the stories that have been shared today. I've done many of these funerals, memorial services, and one thing a mentor of mine said, the best thing that you can do to live a legacy and to remember is to keep telling the stories, laugh, cry, let it all out. This is the time to do it. great stories to tell. I think we just got a preview of many that the rest of you could share about Darrell. So thank you all who are joining us online. Thank you those who are here today. And on this day, then, we will close with a word of benediction. And again, continue to take time on this day to chat with one another, share stories, laugh, cry, enjoy, and experience all. And on this day, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord look upon you all with favor and grant you all peace. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Mm-hmm.